Hey there, guys. A question one of you guys posted: mental health and lifting. Um, some days you're just not going to have the motivation, and other days, what you want to hit at gym or competition, or even during your comp prep. Sometimes it just doesn't happen. The best way to deal with this, and the way that I deal with it is at the end of the day, you're more than the numbers that you put up. And you can have an off day for many different reasons. A lot of the time, it could be you had a poor night's sleep, you haven't eaten well the last 2 to 3 days, all those sort of factors. The sessions where you feel it really breaking down, falling apart, take a bit of a back step and think about what went wrong and why. And most of the time, it's going to boil down to nutrition, sleep, or stress management. Um, Overtraining can also be an issue as well. And if you've had a period of 3, 4 weeks where you've been pushing really, really hard, your cortisol levels are going to start to rise. There's going to be a few other negative hormonal things taking place, and that's just going to affect your strength. And when you find yourself in that position, one of the best things you can do, even during that workout, is just going, you know what, acknowledge the problem. Don't try and make excuses for it, or go, you know what, I'm going to try better next week or next session. Just acknowledge, okay, you made a mistake. Some of the factors can just be beyond your control. You might have been stuck doing overtime for the last 2, 3 days, and it's all catching up. And if you're going to have times like that as well, those training sessions where they aren't going to be optimal, they're really good for technique work. You're always going to get stuff out of technique work, because the cleaner your movement pattern is and the cleaner you leave your movement pattern when you come back to a heavy load, it's going to remember sort of the last thing that you did. So for me, even when I squat really heavy, I still finish off with technique work. Sometimes I drop the weight all the way down to 120 kilos and just do 3 sets of 5. It's just technique work. If I'm having a really off day and everything feels terrible, you know what? I'm still going to do the technique work, because I'm still moving. I'm still, causing the muscles to engage and fire. There's still a little bit of nervous system stimulation kicking in, but it's more about you're keeping a routine, and you don't have to worry about every session being perfect. Like this comp prep, very little of it has been perfect. The only thing that sort of has been perfect, or like that, even that is an exaggeration. The only thing that's been really good for me is I'm just mentally stubborn, and I can acknowledge where things break down and why. And even if I have like a decent following and put up a really good total and the rest of it, at the end of the day, no one really cares. Like it's not going to change my home life with my kids, my partner, all that sort of stuff. Like if I have an off day, she's not going to love me any less. My kids aren't going to love me any less. It's just one of those things. I think, in terms of competing as well, this is a 40 something competition that I've done. I think it's comp number 44, something like that. And, along the way, I've had some comps that have just been terrible. And your life doesn't change, just because you have an off day at gym, or, you mentally don't feel it, don't get down on yourself and beat yourself up about it, because no one else really cares. It's not as if like I'm an elite pro athlete. Yeah, I'm getting well and truly up there in powerlifting, but even, the top people in powerlifting, you look at, what goes on their day-to-day lives, there's going to be more pressure for them to perform, but it's still not really going to impact their life as heavily unless they've had like some sort of major injury. And the other thing, the people at that level, they're not checking out this video anyway. They already know how to deal with certain aspects. They've got other people helping them out, coaching wise, nutrition wise, everything else. Me, I'm just self-coached, and I'm just doing the best that I can, helping people along the way. And this is just my take and a very down-to-earth approach of it. And then the other thing, when you're having an off session, the rest of the week, just acknowledge that it could be off as well, and it's better just to do technique work for the rest of that week. And then the week after, go back hard. Don't go back at the exact same weights that you were planning to hit the week you had an off session. Maybe dial it back for a week or two, and that way you're going to completely recover. And then week 3 comes along, and the session that you were meant to have will actually go to plan, or it more or less should, providing you haven't had any other huge disturbances. So yeah, that's my take on it in terms of like mental health and getting caught up in numbers and the rest of it. And the other days where you have very, very little motivation to go and train, just rock up to the gym and choose things that you enjoy. It could be as simple as just doing biceps and triceps, but at least you got in the door. Biceps and triceps are still going to carry over to the bench press, and chances are by the time you've done 4 sets of 10 at each, you're probably going to move on to something else. You might do some shoulders. You might go, you know what, I don't want to squat today, but I'm at least going to jump on the leg press or do some leg extensions, some leg curls. You're still training. Any session that you get in when you feel absolutely, dead tired or just not motivated at all, is probably going to be, very beneficial in that regard. The only time I'd err on the side of caution and skipping sort of things is if you get under a heavy weight and things feel off and you go, you know what, I don't know how this is going to turn out, don't do it. Versus if you have a session, it's like, I can't be bothered and, I'm tired. They're the sessions that you can afford to push. The sessions where everything feels good and you want to get greedy and things are feeling off, they're the ones you dial it back because, you run a high chance of injury generally. And the more you avoid injury, the longer you're going to last in this sport. I started powerlifting when I was 16. I'm 31 now, and I haven't had any major injuries. I haven't had anything that's required surgery or, badly hurt myself in any regard. The only time I've ever hurt myself was outside of gym, and I ended up tearing my calf, but not to the point where I needed surgery or anything else like that. So always look after yourself in the gym, in this sport, because it takes a very, very long time to get very, very strong. And, the more things you do correctly, the further you're going to progress. And then, if you do take a big deload for, 6 to 12 months and have a change of direction, at least when you come back, you're going to get back to your old numbers very, very quickly, as opposed to, when you get back there, that's when it starts to become a slow process. But yeah, always getting back to where you were is generally quite easy. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Otherwise, have a great day wherever you are.